Okay, cameras in focus. This is the like 5th time I'm recording this because I just can't fucking do it right. Hex NOED escapes death. Simple enough. When all gens are completed, one dual totem becomes a hex totem. As long as that hex totem is up, all survivors have exposed. Killer is 4% faster, and survivors get alerted of the perk when at least one survivor is hit, and survivors can now see the aura of the totem from a certain range. Now, if you play this game long enough, you might already know the problem with this perk. If you play a lot of Survivor, there's a good chance you fucking hate this perk, and I don't blame you. I play 80% Killer, and I understand the problems with NOED. I hate the perk because it's one of those perks that bad players use, and then when they lose a lot because they are relying on this perk, they then claim things like, killers are required to run X, Y, and Z. And then on the other hand, you also have people then defending the perk because these weaker people rely on it. And since they can't get much good use out of it because they don't know what they're doing, suddenly it's a perfectly fine perk. It's the issue with like old Dead Hard. If you remember back then, a lot of people kept posting clips of them like dashing into walls, and then they're like, oh, the perk's perfectly balanced because I don't know how to use it. Just because the bad players aren't good with it doesn't mean it's fine. On top of that, one of the common defenses is it's a weak. One of the common defenses is that it's not that strong, and while I do agree, I do think it's still problematic. Giving survivors exposed after they did 5 gens, just because they did 5 gens, is really bad. That's like definition crutch perk, and I don't think we should be having crutch perks in the game that just give one side a huge reward, or well, I guess more punishing one side heavily for doing what they were supposed to do in the game. Like, imagine if there was a perk that was like, every time a survivor died in a trial, all survivors did generators 25% quicker. I think a lot of people would obviously be asking for nerfs, which, yeah, because that perk shouldn't be in the game for obvious reasons. But the problem is that it would reward survivors because the killer did well. That should not be in Dead by Daylight. That's really, really bad design. When survivors play well, they should be rewarded. Killer shouldn't have a perk that just says, congrats, you did the gens really quickly, I get an insta-down you. Now, of course, you could say just do the totem, but first of all, it requires the killer to already get 1 down. So right after that, killer has to get down, then survivors have to still go find the totem. Now, if the totem is near where the killer downs someone, the killer can just hook that survivor right next to the totem, and, well, now the other survivors can't do anything. They can't counter the perk because they try to, the killer's just going to down them. And since they're right next to the hook survivor, they can't try and bait the killer one way or another. Now, you might be saying, well, yeah, of course, if RNG allows it. And to that I say, well, correct. It shouldn't rely on RNG for survivors to have a chance to counter the perk. Other endgame perks have obvious counters. No Way Out, you touch the door, and then you either just hide or have one survivor getting chased by the killer. It's on a timer, and the counter is waiting out that timer. Blood Warden, the counter is not opening the exit gates until everybody's ready to leave, or letting a survivor maybe stay on the hook for a moment so the bar stays gray, so the timer is slowed down, and then maybe unhooking them after a bit because it's only 60 seconds and only activates once per match. Haywire, open the door all the way. There's plenty of counters to every other endgame perk, but specifically NOED has one counter, and that counter can just be nullified entirely. Another defense I hear is that it only works on M1 killers, and while true that M1 killers can generally use some buffs in current Dead by Daylight and not really nerfs, with the exception of Tokyo Ghoul Killer, I don't think that that's a good enough defense for NOED because it's now a crutch perk that people are relying on for M1 killers instead of just having those M1 killers be stronger. Also, if you're using up a slot for NOED, then you're not using up a slot for a perk that could actually be useful in the match. And in turn, you're also probably not getting as good as you can at said killer. Rewarding bad players for playing badly and punishing good players for playing well. That's basically what it comes down to. All around, I don't like NOED. I think it should just be reworked or removed. I don't really care. Just the type of perk that punishes one side for the other side playing well should not be in Dead by Daylight, in my opinion.